Okay, so last week we started this look at Psalm 23 that we're going to be in just for a little bit of time, just a few more weeks. But we're going to take some time going verse by verse through this very familiar psalm. But we're going about it in a different way. I kind of am encouraging people to kind of watch this with like they've never heard of Psalm 23 before. And the simple reason for that is because we can kind of get in a place where, oh, I've heard that before. Oh, I've heard this before. Or I know that. And it can run us into some trouble because we don't listen the same way, we don't look at it the same way. Oh, I've heard this as our mindset. So I've been encouraging to not do it that way. So we looked at the first half of verse 1 last time, and we're just talking about how the Lord is my shepherd, and how David was writing these words just very simply as he had been a shepherd before. He had saved his flock, he had been watching his sheep, and he knew exactly what they needed, and he knew the words that he was writing down because he had been a part of them, but he's writing them about God. And so as we continue to look through this, we got to keep that in mind as well, that these verses are written by David, who was a shepherd. Today we're looking at I shall not want. And how many of you remember going to the store when you were younger, or maybe you have kids now that do this, but you would walk by something and they're like, oh, I need this. Oh, I want that. Oh, I need it. And you would just like, no, you don't need it. I can remember getting that. No. And the more times you asked, the louder the no got, the more stern the no got. And you became very afraid of your parents in that moment. But that's because they knew you needed something a little bit different. They knew there was something down the road that you were going to need that was more. You didn't need that right now because they knew you needed something else. They knew you were going to just break whatever it was, and they didn't want to spend $20 on that particular toy just for it to get broken a few moments later. Also, they might have known that you needed a new pair of shoes or a new shirt or new clothes to wear for the coming school year, and so they didn't want to get you that right now because you didn't need it, you wanted it, and there's a difference. So I think that this verse sometimes can lead us to, this part of the verse can lead us to sometimes think that I shall not want can mean, well, I get everything. I have everything that I need. A couple of translations of the Bible translate it that way. The NLT version, the New Living Translation, says, I have all that I need. The NIV version says, I lack nothing. So if that's the case, then how come I still need things? And it's not because you need them, it's because you want them. And there's difference. And so when we look at this verse, we're going to look at it a little bit like this. A shepherd takes care of his sheep. He gives them what they need. He makes sure they have a place to rest. He makes sure they have a place to eat. He makes sure they have water and protection. That's what a shepherd does for his sheep. He gives them what they need. But in the same way, they may not feel like they need that in that particular moment. They may not feel like they want to do that. They may not want to sleep here. They may not want to rest now. They may not want to eat this piece of grass because it's different than that grass over there. But they may not want to drink out of this watering hole. And what happens is they end up needing it later, but they didn't want it then. And so, same thing happens with us. We walk along, we go through things, and we see all the things that we need, and we're like, oh, I just need that. But in reality, God's given us what we need. God's given us people in our lives. God's given us a new day. God's given us lots of different things. He's protecting us, and He's guiding us, and He's walking with us, and He's giving us what we need. But sometimes God gives us what we want just for us to realize, oops, I didn't really want that. I don't really need that. And we wind up in a different mindset. But this verse, I shall not want, because a shepherd, like God and like David, gave them what they needed. But just like us, when we're growing up, when our parents are trying to guide us, shepherd us, if you will, through life, we have this rough patch, just like a shepherd's flock would have. Kind of like, well, I need that now. And that's why you see kids throwing fits in the grocery store because they wanted the Lucky Charms and they didn't get the Lucky Charms, or they wanted the new Cars 3 toy and they didn't get that, and they're kicking and screaming because they wanted it. They didn't need it. So that's what this verse kind of means to me. I shall not want means God's given me all the things that I need, and He'll continue to give me the things that I need. And anything that I don't really have is probably more of a want than a need. You need food, you need shelter, you need air to breathe, you need all of that kind of stuff. But sometimes we don't need a new fancy Camaro or a new big house or things like that. Those are what we want. And we don't really want God to give us what we want sometimes, because it'll turn out to be something awful. But just know that He's given us all that we need, and He is our great source for things like that.